So today we're going to be talking a bit about consolidating data, specifically from external sources. And of course, when I say external, I mean external to our product portfolio. But first, a small disclaimer. Due to the time constraints, I am assuming a bit of background knowledge in this talk. So it would be good if you have some basic insight into the Configit Ace product portfolio, the different modules we have, and have some basic understanding about the process and benefits of our VT technology. So if you don't have that, no, we have plenty of tech talks available alongside mine as recordings that you can use afterwards to get up to date. But let's get into it. So to set the context, the stage for what I'm talking about today, I'll be looking a little bit about how when you come in as a CLM system into our enterprise landscape, how we deal with integrations with the external data. So what we found when we were developing Ace is that in the typical enterprise IT landscape, any single software system is rarely fully authoritative. So it's rarely the master of all the data, even within its own area. And it might be there are many of these systems in play, like ERP systems, PLM systems, they have things that they want to share between them, definition of parts, definitions of driving parameters, families, and so on. So Ace was designed to facilitate flexible integrations in an environment like this, where we cannot assume too much about which of the parts of the data we can actually own. But this is also an area where we continue to improve. And today I will be discussing some of the new integration mechanisms we have been introducing in recent releases. And then I will try to aim at convincing you that you can use those to accelerate the time to value of Ace by leveraging a subset of the functionality instead of going all in. And then also how you can leverage the same mechanisms to easily integrate external data with the data that has been authored in Ace model. So for the first goal of trying to get quick value to time to value, I'm going to be looking at basically cherry picking some of our Ace CLM functionality. So we have, Ace is a large product, but there are certain areas of it that I want to highlight here. So of course you have the modeling area. That is where the primary place for people to master data within our ecosystem. That's where you can do your own rules, your own defaults, maintain the portfolio of products, handle the presentations, view sections, all that. But we also have some other very significant areas in Ace, specifically the verify module, which in general deals with verification of modeling intent. So it basically covers also if you are a software developer, this is your testing ground. This is where you go to verify what you did. It also provides a quality assurance mechanism for making sure that your data is aligned and that you're not making mistakes such as, for example, having a bunch of BOM bill of materials for things that you do not sell, or vice versa. You can find there's another video on that actually about BOM validation. We also have other analytics, like being able to generate a view of our solution space, something which is also unique to our technology. I think you will also find other videos about that, so I'm not going to go into that. And then, of course, we have our, what I would say, bread and butter, the configure services. That's, of course, what you expect, to have APIs to build configurators, both for internal public use, both for small scale and global websites. Also, we just want to highlight, as part of this module, you also get data versioning of the release data. So it's possible on the same systems, on a single instance of the software, you can deal both with pre-release versions of your data that you're trying out testing in your, for example, in your end user configurator, as well as the actual release data that is in use for end user customers. This is also fairly unique to us, I think. And of course, we offer capabilities such as being able to perform a BOM solve and integrate with, for example, pricing from SAP. So what we're talking about here is that we want to try and basically, we're going to be lazy and we're going to skip the modeling part. And we're going to focus on trying to leverage the services that we see in the green here based on existing data. So the scenario I want you to imagine, which you hopefully agree exists out there, is that we have multiple sources of configuration data in the current landscape. In some cases, you might even have multiple sources of the same type. I mean, you might have two different subdivisions there, both using two different ERP systems of even different providers to supply the data. So in general, you might not even know it's not, I mean, a specific kind of data might not even be in a specific type of system. It might be for that product, the BOM is here, for that product, the BOM is over there. So what I want to talk about is how these two capabilities, the Configit compile service and the package builder API, how those allow us to consolidate these sources without requiring a full remodeling or data migration into Ace model. So of course, there's no completely free lunch here. You do need to perform some conversion, but we are aiming for something that is very lightweight. So we are looking at a scenario like on the right, where there's some sort of data being sourced from Excel sheets. There's always Excel sheets in these setups, no matter where you look. It's a little bit scary, but Excel still has a big role to play in mastering configuration data. You have a PLM system here and two ERP systems, just as an example. What we're aiming for is having a lightweight conversion mechanism that can give us a common language upon which we can leverage all the Ace VT related services. So let's look at the building blocks we have available here. So let's start with the package builder. Maybe want to highlight how it's different from the other API services we have. So it's a C# API right now that is intended specifically for automated conversion of product master data. That we also have other ways of putting data in that go into Ace model. They target the higher level domain models we have inside Ace model. Meanwhile, this API is intended to be unopinionated, so it makes no assumptions on the structure of your products and how they have been modeled, the concepts in use there. It defines instead a small set of what we consider generically applicable modeling constructs that you can use to perform the translation to. It also supports some of the entities that we do not offer modeling authoring for in Ace model, such as, for example, bill of material. It's a lightweight thing to consume because it operates within memory data creation. You don't need a database. You actually don't even need an Ace deployment in order to generate the data. Of course, if you want to consume it, you need the Ace services. It's a .NET standard library for the technical people out there that can be used in cross-platform CLI tooling or for building services. So it is not an end user thing we are talking about. This is something that is integrated by a partner, integrator, or a consultant. Once you have it in place, it's easy to review what data you're actually creating, because it also has the capability of persisting the data in a human readable text format we call the logic model language. And I want to call out that I can't go into details in this short time, but what I do want to do is to call out that we have samples available at the Configit SDK GitHub org. If you are a customer of ours, you can get access to this, and it contains samples as well as the libraries for this. And specifically, it includes a sample that shows how to convert some data that is stored in Excel, example data, and how you can use the package builder to bring it into our world. We also have documentation here, which you can also find on your own Ace model instance if you have one, that specifically goes through and calls out how to operate with the package builder API. I did include a screenshot here because I wanted to show just a little bit about what it looks like from a coding point of view as well. But you can see there should be no big scary surprises here. It's a simple Fluent API where you say, I want a product model with this ID, this description. I want to add these variables. I have some default sources. You can add augmentation such as calculated variables, properties, that kind of thing. In general, we find that it's when we in our own internally in our consultancy and when others try to do this conversion, that it's a fairly small timeline. They can get some data out. So if you choose to export it persist it to disk, you will find a folder structure like this. I don't again, don't want to go into too much detail here, but I just want to show that it creates kind of like a project file structure where you can go in and find the different entities that have been authored, such as the BOM catalog, a product catalog specifically. So you can also deal with non-configurable material products here, of course, and a list of the configurable product models with files for each entity. So this is something you can intended for being able to for you to review. The LML format itself is meant to be fairly easy to read, and also actually human editable. So you can edit it. If you want, you can edit it in a text editor easily, and you can even compile that and forward it through our tool chain. If you set up one of these converters and you want to track differences in how you convert, it's perfectly fine to store the output like this in a standard version control system, because it just like normal programming languages, it operates on a line base, so the diffs you get there will be useful. Also, maybe a minor point, but I think we made an effort to keep the format simple and very clearly documented, meaning that unlike many other formats, we specify the semantics of the entities, not only the syntax, and that also helps to provide some measure of protection against vendor login, because of course we want you to use this format to convert to our systems, but it is also a way for you to basically download and get all the data you would have to have in our systems. For example, if you are curious and want to see this and you already have an Ace model instance, what you can do is you can go into the admin area under export, and you can choose source package instead of the regular export types, and that will download a zip file that contains the structure I just showed you. The second part of our puzzle here is the compile service API. It's a deceptively simple API. There's a lot of fairly high-tech stuff happening internally behind this. The way it operates is that when you want to create a new package of data, so a consistent set of data with a version on it, you provide one of our package paths, which is a path you can make up yourself, but it allows you to distinguish between different purposes of packages. So in this case, I've put in Acme as the brand name, Beta to indicate that it's not meant for production use, and then I put cars as it might be where we put our car products, for example. You can issue that to the compile service saying, I want to start a new package with the source data. It will then issue a version and uniquely versioned path for you, so you can have like ongoing from a history of versions of the same path. The next step is that you go through, use the package builder API to add the source. That will upload it to the compile service, and then once you're ready, you can start the compilation. That when you start the compilation, it will consolidate the data that has been uploaded and issue a compilation ID to you that can be used to retrieve status, progress, and also validation messages. So you're getting the full access to the VT compiler through this. Let's look at how you set up an implementation of this. So if we start with a simple example where we have a single external data source, so you might imagine this could be a PLM system, it could be some bespoke modeling tool. So what we would ask of the integrators here is that you need to write a little bit of code that it has to have access to load data from the external source. So you have to have those access and APIs in place. You need to be able to map, you need to understand the semantics of the data you're getting. So of course, we try to be very clear in our formats about when a rule is in a specific format, what does that mean? You have to have that understanding also when you do the data conversion, of course. Once you're ready, the compile service client, which is also a simple library, can take you through the step of creating a new package, adding the source, and starting the compilation. Once you start the compilation, the compile service will consolidate the data and then delegate the hard work to the workers, which is a scalable set of service instances. If you're on a SaaS subscription, of course, this is all handled for you. If you're on-prem, you're just like the other parts of Ace, you'll be handling the infrastructure for that. The result of this is you get an Ace VT package in the storage, and through the Ace, you can then access all the services that you would also normally be able to expect from something that was produced from Ace model. So it's the same capabilities that we surface. We also support that you can do collaborative publishing, meaning that you're concurrently having multiple system adding source into one of these packages. That might be different systems, or it might just be large sets of data where you would have multiple systems sending data. That works fine, and it will just be consolidated at the end when you ask it for it to be compiled. But what we found is that when we talk to customers and integrators, is that frequently the data that goes into these packages do not live in the same life cycle. So for example, BOM data is typically, it precedes data such as translations, and it also has a different release cadence. And the same thing, the people working on engineering rules might start earlier and release data at a different cadence than the people doing the marketing rules. So what we suggest, the workflow we want in that case is that we actually just use the same flow as before, but we just release in individual areas of functionality as separate packages. So for BOM, you go through the same step of the package built on the compile service. You get a package that only has BOM. You can use that, for example, in the verify module to verify certain aspects. You can do the same with the other areas. Then once you're ready to consolidate, doesn't have to be at the end when you're ready to go into production, but at any time you want to, for example, pass something to downstream, you're tested in your end user configurator, or you just want to check it, consolidate and verify, you can ask the compile service to combine the packages. It will then check that all the data is aligned. So it's not just copy pasting, it is actually looking at it and making sure that there are no discrepancies between the different data being merged, and then it will recompile as needed to ensure the consistency. That means that in the combined VG package, you are sure that your master data is aligned. You don't have cases where some of the data is out of sync with the rest. So I haven't really said much about Ace model so far, of course, because our first goal was just to show that you can easily get into Ace without having to model. But of course, in many cases, Ace model is in place, or there's a desire to bring Ace model into the picture. So the first case, which is a very common one, I would say, is that you have configuration models that are maintained inside Ace model. Now you also have BOM maintained in a PLM or ERP system or some other system, and you would very much like to have those available in a consistent manner in our services. So what we suggest again is during development processes, you can iterate over individual packages. So just like before, you can have Ace model do its own release pipeline. It will again just produce a package. So of course there's no converter needed here. It's our own data source. And from BOM, the BOM source, you do your converter and compile. Then you can get the compile service to combine them afterwards when you're ready. There's also a slightly more complex case here in which I'm mixing two things together here, but to cover more ground, but where you want to do incremental remodeling into Ace model, and you're dealing with an SAP system. So much of the same things applies, even if it's not an SAP system. I just wanted to cover some of the special parts about the SAP as well. So what we're going to looking at here is that in order to get up and running quickly and get a consistent configuration interface to all the data we have, we can start by just going passing through the SAP data. So we will take all the products that are relevant, including BOM and pricing data. We will pass that through. Here I indicated package builder API, but you don't have to write a converter here because we have a specialized converter and a specialized target configuration engine for the SAP data that ensures it's completely one-to-one with what it is in the behavior you see in the SAP configurator. At the same time, you can cherry pick some of the models where you want to improve the configuration experience, where you want to take advantage of the VT technology, and then you can have, using our normal model API for synchronization, you can set up that structure inside Ace model automatically. So that is, you set up a synchronization process where it creates the product and defines the configurable parameters for it inside Ace model. And then a modeler takes over, and from there, he or she can input the rules, set up if you want defaults, if you want to get specified views or any of the other capabilities we have inside the Ace model. So that gives you a different version here of the model A, which is called A prime here. So we end up with two packages, one that has the VT configuration logic with the model I call A prime here, and you have the original SAP data. Both of these packages are able to execute on their own inside Ace. But we can then ask the compile service to merge them and replace the configuration logic of A with A prime. The result of that will be the capability of doing a VT back configuration of the A prime model, but you still have all the SAP pricing and BOM data available for you, and all of that can execute within Ace. You don't have to access the SAP system anymore. Of course, since we're dealing with some of the SAP data here, there's a few extra tweaks needed, but this is actually a flow we have in place for customers. So I also want to go a little bit into the compile service. So before, I try to keep it simple at the API level, but I also want to promote some of the things we have been doing inside it, and also tell you how it aligns with our overall strategy. So first off, if you're using this model and it's in version 6.5 or higher, by default, it will be using the compile service to perform compilation. We are doing that. Moving forward, we want to ensure a single API service for leveraging all the VT compiler capabilities, no matter which data source we are coming in from. In general, we have this. We want to make sure that external systems can also act as a first order customer in the system. Some of the key capabilities which are worth noting is that the compile service actually keeps the source part of the published package around. So the source data you pass in for compilation stays in store. You can clean it up if you like, but that is what it also enables it to merge packages, because by looking at the source, it can actually make sure things are aligned. It also means that we have the capability to go back and look. If you have a package and you want to understand what was the source that went into it, you now have a unified low-level language. You can go back and see what was input. This model, of course, has its own. You can always go and look at that. But if you have a mix of this model and external systems, then this gives you an aligned data format for investigating it. And at the same time, this allows us to do smart caching, because we have the source data. If you change something, we can compare to what we compiled last time and only recompile as necessary. We try to be smart about merging different source data fragments. So when you merge a package, maybe the people doing the BOM package, they don't care about maybe about configurable products. So maybe in the product catalog, certain products are not marked configurable, and then someone else is putting in a configuration model for it. Those kinds of trivial things, of course, we want to resolve for you automatically, so you don't have to deal with aligning that. But of course, any actual inconsistency will result in validation messages, and you can then investigate afterwards. I also want to just very quickly call out that we also include automatic generation of performance and complexity metrics during compilation now. This is not something your average modeler will ever need to look at, but if you're dealing with very complex models and you want to track how, for example, how their complexity and performance changes over time, you can go into the verify module, and under the diagnostics for inside a package and a product, you'll be able to see this. So it's a way to understand the performance of your model, basically. Also, I also just want to highlight that in the same area, we now have the capability of benchmarking packages. So if you're making changes and you want to make sure that this complex model still stays within your performance goals, and you can easily benchmark it from here. So before, maybe modelers would go manually and test a few things, or they would be relying on external benchmarking tools. Now it's just one click inside the tool. So in in wrapping up, I want to keep it really simple. I only want you to remember 2 things from this. The rest you can always catch up later if you rewatch. The first is that you can start leveraging Ace quickly right now using the package builder and compile service. You do not have to go all in on a full project. The second is that you can integrate external data with Ace models, master data, without having to customize the release pipeline Ace model. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you for your attention. And if you have questions that go beyond the QA session that follows, then I would suggest you reach out to us.